It was totally unplanned. I was on TikTok live. It was right before my dinner. I was like, let's just hop on a quick live, answer some grading questions. And this guy pops up in my chat. And he's saying he's a PS employee. I was like, obvious troll is obvious. No way. Blah blah blah. But the more he was talking in the chat, I was like, hmm. So I was like, let's just put him in a Discord call and see what happens. So totally unplanned, not a professional interview. It's from my TikTok camera. But we got some very interesting information. He talked about whatever I wanted to ask him about. Um, we talked about like different grading tiers, if that's going to influence the grading, if some graders are harsher than others, if you can maximize your grading by splitting up the submission. He talked about PSA rate increases, decreases, uh, why they why they increase the grading difficulty based on social media drama, all kinds of interesting stuff. It's kind of all over the place, but it's definitely really interesting. And yeah, I would be submitting to PSA right now, get those bulks in, because the main thing I kind of took away from it is they're going to be harsher with Scarlet and Violet coming out in the English set, and that kind of makes sense when you think about it. So I hope this is useful. If you guys enjoy it, make sure to drop a like and a subscription. It really means a lot to me. But anyways, enjoy. I'll also try to break down the topics, even though it went really over like all over the place. I'll try to break down the topics and timestamps on YouTube because it's over an hour long. But I hope you guys enjoy. Called me on Discord. Message requests. Oh, I see you. Okay, I'm gonna get you in. Hello? Wait one sec. Hello?
Hello, hello.
Hey,
Hi,
what's
how
up?
are you?
What's up, man? Let me turn you up so they can hear you.
Okay,
All right.
take your time. Sorry about that. I was dealing with my cat. He ran through my bulk collection of Pokemon cards, and I had to rearrange that. So
Oh, dude, I have two cats and they're always like out, man.
yeah,
Like,
my oldest, he likes to open the door. So and once he gets in, he tears things up. So
you just try to leave them like out of your collection room.
yeah, I have a bureau like sitting in front of the doorway, and so I push it open and I push it back whenever I enter and exit my closet. So,
Nice. So you're really a
but
PSA grader, bro?
so yes. I started at when I was 18. I'm currently 23. I've been working there for a couple of years. So it's been very interesting as a company. I work at typically deal with different entries. So when it comes to us getting an entry that's not designated for our department, we actually send it to a different department in a different location in general. So sometimes that's why it takes up to 2 to 3 months for cards to be, or cards or anything in general to be graded and sent back, is because we have to move it from one location to another or from one department to the next. And certain buildings on our uh, in our location are genuinely designated for specific things. Like comic books do not come through the card section. The cards do not go to different departments. They're literally organized and shipped upon retrieval.
I got you. Yeah, so that adds some time to the grading time, the logistics behind the
Yeah.
scenes and whatnot. So what percentage of your job are you grading cards?
So it used to be I used to do exactly just greeting cards. But now I do a little bit of everything. It really just depends. We get job requests upon like entry. So when I clock in, or well, when I did clock in, like because I've been on vacation for about 2 weeks now, um, we clock in. They tell us where we're gonna go, and then we go from there. So like some days I do inventory, some days I do card grading, some days it just depends.
Okay, so you just like show up and then they're like, okay, today you're doing
Yeah.
cards or
Yeah.
comics.
Not everybody's like this. The normal worker is usually grading cards.
Okay. Oh yeah, because
So
I mean you probably get the most amount of card submissions, right? Or PSA.
I wouldn't. It's just dependent on uh who's there. To be fair, like when it comes to a bulk submission, for example, they pretty much just hand it to somebody and they're like, okay, this is so many cards. Here's the card list of what came in. Grade it and then send it to the next person, right? Like it goes through a line. Uh, Usually people are on a designated team. So if somebody from a team gets a set, there's usually about 3 to 4 other people that it's got to go through. And it rotates through that group of people. And then if cards are on the fence or if cards are not determined prior to what they want it to be graded. So for example, if a card comes in and 3 people think it's a 9 and 1 person thinks it's a 10, they come to an ultimatum and they decide what it should be labeled as.
Really? So is it anonymous? Like those?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So
certain, like, one of our bigger things when it comes to cards, like for example, a couple years ago when Logan Paul sent in and bought Pokemon cards, right? He sent in like a huge bulk of like 10 to 20 to like 40,000 cards, I think. And it took us, like, we had to get it in and out in like 5 to 10 days because he had the like most expensive shipping because it was mostly vintage cards.
Yeah.
We literally spent 15 to 20 employees literally dedicated to him to just grade them through, make sure everything looked pristine, clean, and then send them back.
That was probably before his Whatnot auction. I remember they're like advertising that they're selling all of Logan Paul's Pokemon cards or whatever.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So we'll start with basic questions and we'll get to more advanced questions. Let's start with the more simple stuff first, and we'll take requests from people in your chat as well. I have it pulled up, but I don't have the audio, so I can read chat as well.
Okay. Yeah, if you guys have any specific questions, I got a lot.
We'll start with yours first. I'm sure that yours are more.
So you're saying that's like, yeah, three to 4 people that are checking it, and it's all anonymous, and then they average it out, or then is there like a supervisor or an expert level that's like making the final call?
Yeah, there's somebody above us that makes the final decision overall. But like if we as the employees come to an ultimatum and it's like, okay, we think this deserves a 9. Mm-hmm. We'll go into speculation. We'll go into detail on that specific card, and we'll pinpoint the exact details as to why it deserves a 9 or why it deserves an 8 or why it deserves a 10. And then we go from there.
Okay. And then like they did like release a statement recently that they invested like millions of dollars into AI grading. So I was wondering, like, is that implemented, or like what part is AI?
Yes. That got implemented early in 2020. We threw out an article later on, but like when COVID hit and everybody was sending in card submissions and we were literally swamped with card orders. Like for months, we had to shut down because like people were sending in so many cards and it just became the hobby of what people wanted to do with their extra money. We had to shut down, and that's why it was taking us, 1 to 2 years to send some of these cards back, because we just didn't have, we didn't have the members, we didn't have the staff. We had just had a layoff prior to COVID, because COVID mandate came through, and there was a huge agreement from employees that if we, took the COVID vaccine, we got to keep our jobs. If we didn't, we had to go. And there was a lot of people that were on the fence about that. So we actually lost like quite a few employees through that. And so it made it a lot harder on us. But, now I think our estimated, shipment to and from, with just the basic grading, $15 to $18 grading, is about 1 to 2 months. So we're back on schedule now.
Yeah, you guys are really fast now. Mm-hmm. So what part is AI?
So depending on specific things. So when a card comes through, for example, let's say we have a card. We'll talk about the Blue Eyes White Dragon Ghost Rare, or actually any Ghost Rare from the original printing of Ghosts of the Past. We had a lot of the Ghost Rares had black dots, small, very, very minuscule black dots, but they were in the same spot every time, and we didn't know if it was a factory error or not. Mm-hmm. We do send it through AI grading first to pinpoint where it's at, and then if it replicates it, then we know it's a factory error. right? We use AI grading for factory error. Sometimes we use it for specific grading, for low staff for the day. That's why if you send in a big bulk submissions and you get back a bunch of nines or a bunch of eights and a bunch of nines and it's the same card and it's just like 99999, like that's just how that's AI graded. Like it's not personal graded. Sometimes if it's a lot, because sometimes we do have people that send in 300 to 400 card submissions. If our employees don't have the time or they're about to go on break, they'll grade whatever they can. They'll send the rest of their group. If their group is swamped, they'll send it to AI grading, and AI grading will do the rest.
So AI grading can check everything on a card. It can do the full thing.
Yes. So I'm not sure if you've seen. There's actually a video on TikTok. I think it's AGS. They're a different grading company, and they have a machine that literally pinpoints, like it shows the whole card and it shows the whitening on the card, just in case us as people we miss it, because our employees, they're humans. They're not perfect. They can't tell whether or not cards have like full on whitening on the borders. We throw it under the AI, and the AI pretty much takes a picture of the card, and it's kind of black and white. It's like a very, very high resolution camera, and it shows all the smaller details around the card, surface scratches, because some surface scratches are not visible to the human eye. It's literally, but it'll show up white on the AI grading. So we'll be able to see it, and then we'll be able to dock it, make it an 8, make it a 9. That's why some people, when they get cards back from PSA, they're like, how did this grade an 8? This looks perfect. I don't understand. It's because we threw it under AI grading, and that's where it came out.
So what's the policy when you're doing the AI grading? Is it just based on workload, or is it
it's sometimes it's based on workload. If we've got a few cards that we don't we like can't tell whether or not it's an 8 or a 9 or a 9 or a 10, we throw it under AI grading for a better look.
So it's just the discretion of the employee, though. You don't have to ever.
So that's kind of hard because recently they've been very, very our company has been very high maintenance on grading recently because since and I hate to say it, but social media has kind of ruined a lot of our influence when it comes to grading, right? There's a lot of people, I'm sure you've seen them on TikTok, where they're like, oh, you send in your card to PSA and it gets a 10, whereas if you send it to CGC or BGS, it gets like a 9.5 or a 9, and we want the more accurate grade. That's not how that works.
Really?
Okay. We do get a lot of backlash from that. So recently, company as a whole, we have to be a lot more particular on grading.
So you're saying that
it's gotten a lot harsher, I should say, when it comes to grading as a whole.
When did this change happen?
It was probably a year after COVID. Whenever people started, I want to say it was like May of 2021.
Okay.
May, June of 2021.
Because I heard
they started cracking down on mandates. People started blowing up on TikTok, on Facebook, social medias.
But it hasn't happened recently in the past few months, or
Instagram, YouTube, and so on and so forth. I'm sorry?
It hasn't happened recently in the past few months?
No. It hasn't been. It's been for quite some time.
But it sounds like leadership's like listening to social media, and if they get too many reports, they could like make it a policy for you guys to be more.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yep. So, for example, we had what was it? So back in 2015, 2016, right before I started, because my father also works at PSA, and he works as a supervisor for a different plant. It's not at the one that I work at, but like when Pokemon cards and stuff were coming through, it was kind of difficult for people to get good grades on more vintage cards because they had to be more precise on the vintage cards, because as cards get older, cards aren't always going to stay in peak condition. There's going to be lighting, there's going to be color errors, there's going to be stuff that happens. Cards from early 2000s are not going to look the same as they did whenever they came out. So you have to be a lot more strict on those. That's why a lot of cards come back as 8s and 9s, and you rarely ever see 10s anymore from vintage cards.
Because of policy or because of art?
I would say it's less policy and it's more like we have to be strict.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that they're older, right? We don't want people to just throw in a bunch of bulk from early 1999, early 2000s and think, okay, we're going to get a bunch of tins and we're just going to sell this online and make crazy money.
Yeah.
So we do have to be a lot more particular. We have to be a lot more strict when it comes to stuff like that.
Interesting. Okay. So, so you think by like batching out your submissions, like if you have like 100 of the same card to send and you batch it out between 3 to 4 different submissions, do you think that could increase your chances to get higher grades?
Yes.
Because why is that?
The reason is because when you send in, for example, let's say you were to send in 20 promo cards, right? Mm-hmm. And especially Japanese promo cards, they are very, very, very strict on Japanese promo cards because card quality in Japan is a lot more controlled than it is in the States, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you've seen it in the recent sets, Silver Tempest, Lost Origin, Crown Zenith, that just came out. Those recent sets, English card control is not the best at the moment in time. That's why English is actually switching over to silver borders, to try to re-implement card quality over quantity. But for example, if you send in one promo card, we look at let's say 20 promo cards. How we'll do it is we'll look at it and we'll try to figure out which one is the most perfect. Okay.
So you will compare them to each other in the same submission?
I'm sorry?
You're going to compare the card to the same card to itself if there's multiple in the same submission?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
and you're also going to be more harsh on Japanese cards?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, Crown Zenith, for example, threw out the Lucario for the ETB, right? Mm-hmm. In a sense, what we do is we take both the Japanese version of the card and the English version of the card because usually 80% of the time, our PSA workers have cards and pictures on display of what a tin should look like. Once we have that in our database, it's automatic. Anybody can pull it up from our point of view, and we can literally, because we can also scan your card as well and determine, okay, does this deserve a 10? Let's look at the picture side by side. Right now, let's visually look at it. Okay. Mm-hmm. If it deserves a 10, we give it a 10. If it's off-centered, front to back, we give it a 9. Right. Obviously, more things count towards your 8s, your 7s, your 6s, and so on. But let's say you send in 20 promo cards. We try to pinpoint which one's the best, which one has the best surface, which ones have the best corners, which one has the best one that we know will get a 10. Okay. And then we compare that one promo card to all of the other cards. Literally every single one. And then when we send it off to the next person for it to be looked at, we're like, okay, this is the one that we determined was a 10. Here's the other 19. Pretty much, look through them, see which ones you think deserve a 10. Or see which ones you think deserve a 9. We have to be extremely strict on Japanese promo cards because they're like so close to perfect. Almost every single one.
I know, their quality is so much better.
Yeah. The quality is so much better that it's genuinely hard to miss.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
So what there's a couple questions in chat, but I have one more thing that's like a pretty hot topic, if you don't mind me.
No, go ahead.
There's like a rumor that basically does the grading tier have any factor on the grades? Because there's a rumor.
No, it does not.
Okay, because the rumor that like if you submit under bulk, there's a higher chance that you could get a lower grade.
Yeah,
Because this,
that's all false. I'm trying to think as to what our did I have a hold on, give me 1 second. Because I have to go and look up our services and policies, and we have all that stuff in email and stuff like that because we just got a new one today. We're going to be we actually just got a new okay cool. I can't release it yet. They haven't made it official, so I can't give out too many details on what's going on, but do know that when it comes to grading in general, it will be a lot stricter from here on out, starting probably about May or June.
May or June.
May or June. That's what they're looking at estimate wise. They haven't fully done everything yet, but that's what we're looking at is probably May or June.
Okay, because I'm hearing a lot of
this upcoming Scarlet Violet Japanese set once it hits English, because it hits English probably about March, April, I'd say.
April 1st. Or
yeah.
it's yeah.
So yeah, May, June, just be on the lookout for that. But I'm sorry. But no. Depending on the card submission, no, that's no. Yeah, no, you're not gonna get higher grades just because you submit at a faster rate. It doesn't work that way.
So is it are they gonna be more harsh because of like the social media? Or a lot of people on social media are saying that PSA grade's really easy.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen that way more lately.
We kind of have to be, because now with AI technology, it's kind of hard for us to not be.
Yeah.
CGC, Beckett's got their black labels. CGC's got their pristines and perfects. So for us at PSA, we don't really have anything like that. It's just you got a 10. You got a Gem Mint 10. Here you go. We don't have anything specific like that. We don't plan on changing that. That's not going to change. The company was one of the first to kind of really rotate into that. Let's see.
So one was
sign cards. I seen something about sign cards. So, sign cards are actually it's kind of hard to determine. So, for example, Crown Zenith, I think it is V-Star Universe, Crown Zenith. That they're the ones with the signed trainer cards, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Or am I thinking Scarlet?
Well, I think you may be asking like if an artist or if an actor signs them, but they do have signed cards in Crown Zenith. That are new.
So those ones. So we'll talk automated. We'll talk automated stamped, signed, and then player signed. So when a card gets player signed, it has to be authenticated. So there has to be like genuine proof that it was signed, or it has to be looked at by a professional autographer. We keep a couple of those on in our staff that literally look like, for example, if John Morant were to sign a basketball card, we have to authenticate whether or not it's a legitimate signature versus a forged signature, right? And one of the things that we do is we go and look up anything that John Morant has signed, and if it replicates 80%, I think it's like 80 to 90%, if I'm not mistaken, we label it as an authentic signature, and then we'll go from there. It'll have the little auth on the PSA label too, so it pretty much means authentic. So it goes from there.
So how do you prevent yourself from becoming like unbiased? Like if you just show up and you really don't want to be at work that day and you don't want it to affect the grades, like
we keep personal life out of our work life. It's kind of,
you just got to be professional.
Yeah. When you enter the facility, you have to be professional upon entry. You have to be professional once you leave. So
You guys
There
wear
isn't.
you guys wear
There's not really.
gloves?
I'm sorry.
You wear gloves?
Yes, yes, we do. It is
Oh,
required that we wear gloves to prevent any form of fingerprints, any form of dirt, grease, any of that stuff from hand to card, and from card passage.
and you guys won't clean the cards? Any like, what if you see like a little piece of dust that could make it a 10? You won't touch it?
Yeah, we're not allowed to.
What percentage of cards come with?
It's actually we actually have a service. We have a service in play that actually require, like, if you want to pay for your cards to be cleaned, uh, we do have a service for that.
Really? I didn't know that,
Yeah,
dude. I'd pay for that.
we do.
It's probably
Yeah,
expensive, huh?
I don't remember the exact details on how expensive it is. We've had a couple of customers recently use it. Um, but most of the times and I do recommend for anybody in your chat as well as you, do clean your cards prior to submitting them. All right. It is very important. You want to make sure that fingerprint smudges and stuff like that, any kind of dirt that's on the card, you don't want that to show through.
So how do
So
you recommend people clean them?
um, I want to say microfibers, but sometimes, actually, crazy enough, microfibers can actually leave small little scratches in your cards. So it's kind of hard to really say. I would personally, best thing to do is as soon as you open it from the pack, sleeve it, put it in a card saver, put it in a top loader. Sometimes, to be honest, top loaders can get dirty, so I wouldn't even put it in a top loader. Card
Yeah.
savers are probably your best bet.
How do you guys take the card out of the card saver? Do you cut it?
No. So normally when you throw in a submission, right, you're supposed to, we have people do it, but we have, people don't. There are, I don't know if you've ever, I'm trying to think of what they're called because I had some on hand. They're like small little post-it notes, like super, super thin post-it notes, and they stick out. We recommend that you put them on every single card. That way, whenever we're pulling, we're not actually pulling from the card itself. That way we don't end up bending it. When pulling it out of the card saver, we actually recommend that you put that small little post-it note on the back of the penny sleeve. That way, whenever we pull up from the post-it out of the card saver, it just lifts the card out.
I know.
Right.
I always
While in the sleeve.
I always did that, but then PSA made a video that they don't like that anymore. Like I always
Depends on the person. Some of our employees do just take it straight out. I mean, for the most part, we still get a lot of people, especially with our bigger bulk submissions. They throw them on there all the time. So, I mean, you do as you please. Best thing that you can just not do is just don't put them in top loaders and send them to PSA.
Yeah, no.
That's
You definitely got to
That's
use
the worst thing that we
use card savers.
we have.
But I was using the pull tabs, and I even had like the easy pull tab sleeves, and I was like, oh, this will make the grader's life easier. But then they came out with this video that said, don't do that, like the PSA official YouTube channel. So I thought maybe they were cutting them open or.
I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to go and check on that. I mean, I remember we got an email a couple months. I wouldn't say about a couple months back, talking about the post-it bookmarks or.
Okay,
I didn't fully read into it, to be fair.
Okay.
But, I mean, for the most part, yeah. I mean, you can, as long as you send them in a top loader or not top loader, card saver, then we're fine. You know, we can take it out. We take it out as gently as we can too, because we do get people that don't send them in with the post-it note. So the small little thin post-it strip attached to it. So I mean, we got to take it out either way. I mean, we have precautionary measures. We know how to do it, so it's not too bad.
So have you seen this stuff on social media lately about the Pokemon community, like looking into card cleaning solutions and like buffering and altering the cards?
Yeah, I haven't seen too much on it, to be completely fair, but I've seen like one or two videos. I don't know the full premise of what they're trying to do, but I think it's a little odd, personally.
Well, I mean, I can explain it, but I mean, what are you guys doing at PSA to kind of like prevent grading altered cards essentially?
What do you altered cards as in? I'm sorry.
So there's like different levels of like, because yeah, you should definitely clean your card, like get off all the fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
But like some people were like putting blue marker on the corners to like prevent edging.
Oh.
Or there's
So
like
that's seen all through AI, by the way. Like when we throw that through AI grading, that's seen all through AI grading.
but not
Like,
every card is being AI graded.
no, not everyone, but like if it's kind of visible, where it's like, okay, we have to determine whether or not this card has been, for example, whitening on the sides, right? We've had people come through and they'll mark with a blue marker around the white, and they'll try to color it in or whatever they're trying to do. Like sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's not. If we think it is, we throw it into AI grading just for precautionary measures. But we have to determine that prior to. It's very, very rare that we let a card get through whenever it looks like it's been tampered with. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, to be honest. We're pretty secure when it comes to stuff like that. I wouldn't worry. Most of the people that are doing that though, we end up, if we do determine that the card has been tampered with, we just send it back. Like we don't grade it. We send it back, and when we send them back their pamphlet in their email as towards what the card graded, what it was. If the card didn't get graded, when we send it back, we throw in the disclosure at the bottom as to why it wasn't graded.
Okay. Yeah. So there's like, I mean, it's kind of clickbaity YouTube stuff, but like apparently some made it through CGC and people got really upset. And I mean, they've been doing this kind of stuff in the sports card hobby for a while, but this stuff's kind of new to Pokemon, I guess.
Yeah, it's been interesting. The past couple of years, we've definitely seen a lot more people picking up the card collecting hobby as a whole. So me personally, it's made it hard for me. I've definitely had to stop grading as well as sending in my cards as well, because we're not allowed to bring cards from our like direct collection to be graded at the facility. Yeah. So we have to send them to a whole different place to be graded ourselves. So we're just like, y'all.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
We don't get any crazy special permissions either. We don't get any discounts on services. We don't get any we're just like the regular average human when it comes to card grading. If we send it in, we pay the regular price just like everybody else does. So,
did you guys have any other questions? Someone asked like, if you didn't graded it and PSA sends it back, are they sending it back in a slab showing the grade?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
If you reject a card for grading, are you sending it? Are you sending the grade back of what it would have been rejected? Someone asked in chat.
No, we don't. We just normally if the card gets rejected, at the bottom of our disclosure, we pretty much just state the reasoning as to why it was rejected. And then if the card gets sent back in from the same address, because we have had customers when they sent the card back through, especially if we get it from the same, we have to actually mark it. So in our system, we mark it from the, it's kind of hard to tell, but like we had this one guy, he was sending in, according to our supervisor, I don't know if this is like genuinely true or not, but he was stating that the man was sending in the same card to be graded multiple times over a 6-month time frame, and we just had to keep sending the card back, and we had to keep rejecting the card.
How did you know it was the same card? A lot of people do that. If they're not happy with their grade, they'll send it back.
Yeah. So cracking it and sending it back is one thing. Is another thing if the card's been tampered with, and we know.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. Like, if you like, okay, so for example, beforehand, it used to just be graded by one person, right? Up until I think it was 2016, 2017, because we didn't start doing group. We didn't start doing, according to my father at least, they didn't start doing group stuff until about late 2017, early 2018, before I started working there. But it used to be graded by one person. So if you sent in 100, 200, however many card submission, it got sent to one person. That one person graded your card. And if they graded it an 8 and you didn't like it, you could crack it out and resend it.
Yeah.
Now you still have to pay that fee of resending it and stuff like that. You also have to be careful when it comes to cracking it out the case, because normally when you crack it out the case, the pressure that is required to break open a slab is immense. So it can also bend, damage your card. A lot of the times we don't recommend it because you're probably not going to get that same grade and or better grade. So we don't recommend you cracking the card out of the slab to resend it.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely run a risk of damaging the card while cracking it, and then
yeah.
But you see these pictures on social media, people like sending a 6 and then cracking it and then getting like an 8 and then a 9. I mean, I think that those are the exceptions, right? Like most of the yeah.
So like people, for example, one thing that we've been seeing recently is people on social media, they'll there's HGS, which is, I think it's called half grading, or it's some company, HGS and then AGS, right? People have been sending, because we don't do metal cards anymore, right?
Yeah.
So people have been trying to figure out where they can go to get metal cards graded. When we graded metal cards before we stopped, we had a certain way that we had to grade those because they were just different entirely. Front, back, centering, all that stuff was just entirely different because the card was thicker, it was heavier, it was harder to determine. So we actually had to grade it a lot more harshly than we wanted to. That's why a lot of if you go online and you look up metal cards that were graded through us, that's why they come out as 8s and 9s instead of 10s. It's very, very rare. So people were actually cracking it out of our PSA slab and sending it to AGS. Now AGS does metal grading. So if you're wanting to get metal cards graded, I would recommend that you go through AGS. Crazy enough, because we just don't do it anymore.
CGC just announced that they started metal Pokemon cards.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Like yesterday or something, or the day before.
There's a lot of trash talk between companies. So CGC as a whole doesn't like Beckett. Beckett doesn't like us. We don't really. I personally have no vendetta against either companies. Right.
Well, PSA is the top dog.
Now I do only grade through PSA. I do not grade through Beckett or CGC. I don't respect CGC as a whole because about half a decade ago they came under fire for a lot of things that I'm not allowed to release or talk about, but I do know that they came under fire for it. So, and it was more their third party companies than their corporate staffing, but they came under fire for a lot.
Yeah, we don't have to get into that.
I think it got released to the public too. So if you want to look into that, you're more than welcome to. But
okay.
Are PSA 8s a good investment? Ooh, that is a difficult question to ask. I think for vintage cards, yes. I think for modern cards, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy a PSA.
I wouldn't buy. Yeah, me personally, I would not buy a PSA. Unless you know for a fact that it's going to increase in value over time. So Japanese promos, right? Don't buy PSA 8 in those. Normally Japanese promo cards come through and leave as a 9 or a 10. Like 90%, 99.9% of the time they come through and they leave as a 9 or a 10. It is not worth buying an 8 for Japanese promo cards because they're usually really, really well centered. They usually have no issues. Their backs on Japanese Pokemon cards are a lot better than English cards. Once again, that's just quality control as a whole, though. So,
yeah, he's talking about the vintage Tyranitar. So, I mean, you're saying that, like, if it was graded recently, it would have been a little bit harsher at PSA versus but I mean, yeah. Did you want to talk more about AI? There's a couple questions like.
I'm allowed to release certain things, not everything. So it just depends on what they've asked. So we'll start with that.
Do they send cards automatically to get AI graded based on value or anything?
Certain ones. So if for example, I don't know if I'm allowed to state.
I don't want to get you in trouble, so
I'll say this: vintage cards that our employees do not want to handle specifically, they will throw through AI grading. Okay. Anything prior to 2012, I'll leave it at that. Anything prior to 2012, um, we try not to manhandle, right? Uh, Older cards are more sensitive to bends and they're more sensitive to nicking of the corners and stuff like that, surfacing, coloring, discolorization that happens to cards. So we throw that through AI most of the time, like 90%.
and it's just like a machine that like scans it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a machine that pretty much scans. Like, you know how some people, for example, my father takes a card, when he goes to post it on eBay and he scans it through his printer, or scans it through his scanner or whatever before he throws it online. Yeah, we pretty much do the same thing, except it's got, heavy lights that flash onto the card that show us specifically what's wrong with it.
So is it like a program that's like spits out a 1 through 10 grade, or is it just like kind of like highlight all the imperfections?
It highlights all the imperfections and we go from there.
Okay.
The machine does not grade itself. The machine just shows us the errors.
Does it highlight the imperfections in the same like 4 categories with like surface, edge, corner?
Yes.
Okay. So
no, we don't add subgrades onto cards. So, and that's something that we've been in discussions with. I will state that we have been in discussions with recently about whether or not we want to as a whole. We don't know yet.
Well, you want to what? Sorry, I missed.
Subgrades as a whole, like you were just talking, like whenever an error comes back through the subgrade, it tells us. So that's how we determine it. But when it comes to subgrades on a card, we haven't determined whether or not we want to add subgrades to it. We don't know where we would really add it because, I mean, I'm sure you've seen PSA submitted cards when they come back in slabs. There's a lot of information there.
There's a lot of abbreviations too.
Yeah.
So there's no room. Yeah.
There really isn't.
But the company has discussed adding subgrades?
Yeah, we have. We thought about it about 2 years ago, back when COVID first hit, but we actually denied it. It went through like the higher ups in corporate, and they told us that we're not doing that. So we don't really. I don't know if it's just because of the fact. I don't know the reason. I would assume it's just due to the fact that we've never done subgrades before. So we don't really have a reason to start now. That's just not something us as a company we do. So if people want to understand why, and I know that that's like a huge thing as to why people choose CGC and Beckett over us, is because of the fact that they add subgrades. But I'm just gonna tell you guys this now: the subgrades as a whole can be lied to as well. So don't take everything that you see as a visual. That I know for a fact, CGC has lied about their subgrades. So I am allowed to state that because it got released to the public. There was an article about it. It blew up on Reddit too for a little bit.
They just like fudged the numbers.
There was a guy, he sent in over I think it was 3,000 cards to CGC, and he was very confused whenever some of his cards were coming back, and though they were coming back as 10s, it was just like the corners was a 9.5 or the centering was a 9.5, and he said that it was like that for all the cards that would have been labeled as perfect 10s, and he was very confused as to why. And from visual perspective, I'm not gonna lie, it didn't look like they should have been anything less than perfect. But I mean, that's the risk you take when you grade with a place that gives subgrades. they're also gonna be a lot more harsher on the grading as well.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself, do I just want to send it to PSA and get a 10, or do I want to send it to CGC and Beckett and try to get the black label or the perfect grade? Well, slipping a 20 give me a better grade? No, it will not.
What's the policy when that has that ever happened or?
We did have this. We do have people come in because we do have our front desk here at our office. We do have people like that are walk-ins that come through and they do try to bribe us, but it's actually in our policy that we're not allowed to accept bribes, nor are we allowed. Now, whether or not the employee, I can't state for all employees, but I can state for me that I do not take bribes when it comes to grading. Okay, I don't. Now, I can't say that I have or haven't. I'm not going to state whether I have or haven't had my employees come up to me and talk to me about what they have perceived when it comes to grading. But I mean, 99.9% of the time, no. Slipping me a 20 is not going to increase your chances of getting a better grade.
What about 2 bills? What about 200?
Nah. There's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. All right. I'm gonna
So what about like, I mean, you guys are grading so many cards. Like I've seen cards get damaged from grading, and it's not just PSA. It's like every single company. I've sent to a lot of companies, and some of my cards have been damaged from grading. Like, what's the policy on that?
So there's a couple of things. We actually got rid of being able to keep any form of drinks on our desk. We actually had a employee of ours recently within the past month and a half. He was a brand new employee. He came in with water and dropped his entire drink while walking through towards his office area. He actually dropped it on a box that was holding cards in it. And it actually ruined the cards. So a lot of the times when it comes to stuff like that, we do send a refund. We also send a disclosure in the email as to whether or not the card got damaged through us versus beforehand. We have had times where on packaging, even in the card saver, and it's extremely rare, but it can happen, where we had cards come through and they're damaged. And there's nothing we can do upon that.
Yeah.
Because that's all mail service. So, if you do want to make sure that your cards do get to us, without being damaged, do make sure that you include fragile on your box before sending. As for us, when it comes to us, like I said, we send a disclosure. We also send, or in the email stating that, hey, look, your card got damaged. How do you want to go about this? If we don't receive anything, we send the card back to them, back to the person.
So how do you feel about like all these specials going around? Like it seems like PSA is just doing that when they need more cards to grade, and they must have hired a lot of people.
So we've been in talks about dropping our price for grading as a whole, because, and it's kind of weird because there's a lot of rival companies that kind of match our pricings, and they don't require membership.
Yeah.
So that's why we throw out specials like this for bulk, like $15, like overall for bulk submissions. That's just to help out customers as well.
To promote the membership.
The membership, as in like the $99 membership and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we do take in submissions with people from non-memberships, but it is a lot higher in price. I think it's $50 a card, if I'm not mistaken. So we do take it. It's just, it's not worth it without the membership. PSA is a very, very highly orientated membership company. So we require you to have membership to be able to. If you don't, I'm not going to lie, if you don't want to pay the $99, then grading with PSA probably is not the place you want to grade with. That's why a lot of people actually go to other companies as well. like CGC and Beckett is because of the fact that they don't want to pay our $99 yearly membership.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it happens, you know, we take the good with the bad. There's not a whole lot that we can really do about that. That's just customer preference.
PSA was talking about lowering the grading. Do you know to what? How much?
I can't reveal that. No, I cannot.
Lower than their current special of 15?
Yeah. So it was rumored through employees, and I didn't believe it at first because I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That's why we're 15 is already low. But according to our employees that run around on the floor, they were talking 12. They were talking 12 per bulk submission card. But I don't think it'll change from 15, to be honest. We receive articles on upcoming things, and in our upcoming news, it'll be like, it'll tell us like what kind of upcoming changes are happening to the company. But things don't actually come into policy until there's an actual like, hey, look, this is what's being changed. Everybody check their email. Everybody sign off on it. Here you go. Because we all have to sign an agreement when it comes to new policies and stuff, stating that we accept these policies and go from there. So
yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if they drop it below 15, but yeah, I definitely see a lot of other companies like trying to compete with PSA now.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult sometimes. I don't like the slander that comes to the company, to be fair.
Well, y'all are the top dogs, so people want to seat at the table. So they have.
I mean, I get that, but I feel like people are very like misconstrued of the whole like grading cards as a whole, and this goes for anything. This goes for things outside of just cards. This goes for comic books, anything that gets graded as a whole. You cannot send in and expect it to be perfect, right? And we get a lot of customers that get very, very frustrated with the fact that they send in these cards and they come back as 9s, or they even come back as 8s. And it's like, these are being graded by professionals. So you have to understand that we see these cards on a daily basis, every day, for 8 to 12 hours a day, right? We see multiple copies of the same card. We know what's perfect. We know what's not perfect. So when we see the smallest of errors and a couple of errors stack up and we return it as a 9 and somebody gets frustrated and they think that they're going to crack it open and send it somewhere else to be graded, like, just know, like, it's disrespectful towards the company as a whole to do that. You know, we appreciate the customers that do send in cards to begin with. So for people to, you know, bash us for the way that their cards got graded, and I understand that it's opinions from, you know, the people, but as a whole, like, you know, we try to respect everything and anything that comes in through our doors. So we respect y'all. So we would, you know, expect the same thing in return.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can be rude, or like they they think they deserve a better grade than they do, and so they're really rude. But I mean, that's kind of a good segue. Is like, what do you think about the grading thing as a whole? Like, is it a bubble? Like, graded cards, are they overpriced? Like, it's pretty ridiculous right now that you can just send it to PSA.
Because the people control the market. There's not really an elite group of people that really, well, there is an elite group of people, I should say, that do control, obviously, the people that influence the cards and stuff as a whole. But most of I think it's, I don't really know. Like, that's a very good question, because it's like,
that's probably the best answer is I don't know, because I don't think anyone knows. But I just was wondering, like, what your thoughts on the whole thing, because it's pretty weird when you step back and look at it.
Like, from a personal from personal preference, I don't think that anybody really should be paying, especially for more modern cards. I don't think anybody should be paying over like $300 at best.
Right.
Like the Moonbryon from Evolving Skies, one of the most sought after cards. Like, yes, it's peaked of popularity, but at the same time, like the people control the market. So the price is rising, the price gouging and stuff like that. That's all done through the people. That's not done through us. It's not. That's just how people want it. Now I will say this, and it does suck because there's not really like outside, like at the end of the day, people go to eBay because eBay has the most like consistent like numerical value of like quantity items when it comes to cards. So what I mean by that is like when you go on to eBay, you can search up almost any card and find PSA sales, right? And people just go off those.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have other websites that are literally dedicated to that. Like we thought about PSA as a whole. We thought about coming out with a website that lets people just post onto our site, like
dude, y'all would make so much money though.
their cards. Yeah, but I'm not entirely sure why we didn't go through with that, but I think it's just because of the fact that like the fees.
So a lot on the back end, like a lot of customer service people to run the website.
We would need a lot of that. So I think that's why we just kind of leave it to eBay and why we partner with eBay sometimes, or well, we partner with eBay in general. I shouldn't say that's all. But I think it's a little odd that certain cards popularize, and especially like vintage promos and stuff like that, like the Pikachu ponchos, for example, that came out in like 2016.
Those aren't even vintage; those are pretty recent. But yeah, those are selling for so much money right now.
I mean, if you think about it, they're 7 years old almost.
Yeah.
You know, they're almost a decade old. So I mean, it's getting to that point to where but once again though, they're limited. They're Japanese only. Like, it's definitely interesting.
I got a good question from chat. He's asking how often do you catch cards that over the declared value or the limit value, and like what the price
is? So that's actually a good question. We kept crazy enough. When you do a PSA submission, right? You guys have to specify what the card is selling for and what you guys want the value to be for that card. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When we get that submission paper and we notice something's off, first off, before we do any kind of grading with our cards, we go and check recent pricings as towards like what the card last sold for within the past month. All right. We take a general stand on what it is. If it's over 200, right? We state 199, but I mean, if it's 200, we're not going to overcharge you guys. But if it's like 205, 210, 215, that's when we have to be like, okay, look, you know, we understand if you wanted to pay $15 for it or $18 for whatever you sent it in for, but like we can't do that. So here we have to send you guys an upcharge. Like we don't have a choice.
But you're saying that you would price check every single card in a submission? Doesn't that take a while?
Yes, it does take a while, but it's part of policy, so we have to.
Wow. Okay. So you'll let us. Okay, and then you just mark that it needs an upcharge. And that's going to be the end of the interview. He came back later in chat and saying that his phone died. And I mean, what do you guys think? Was this actually a PSA employee?